The air was heavy with silence as the prophet trudged down a dusty road leading to Bethel. His heart pounded, not from exhaustion but from the weight of divine instruction. This prophet, unnamed in the scriptures but known to the Lord, had been sent on a mission of warning, a message of judgment to a rebellious king, Jeroboam, who had led Israel into idolatry. The day had begun with the thrill of being chosen. God had entrusted him with a powerful message, and his zeal fueled his steps as he marched into the royal court. His words were sharp and precise, leaving Jeroboam stunned. The king's hand had withered as a sign of God's anger, only to be restored at the prophet's prayer. It was a scene of great triumph. The prophet had fulfilled his divine duty, and now he was to return home. But God's instructions were clear: no food, no drink, no resting, and return by a different path. His mind was resolute as he turned his back on Bethel. He knew he had to obey. Yet the road ahead held a test far greater than any encounter with a rebellious king. This test would come quietly, with a temptation wrapped in religious garb and warm hospitality. As the prophet journeyed home, he stopped to catch his breath under the shade of a large oak tree. He was thirsty, but the command to abstain rang louder in his mind. It was then that an old man appeared, a fellow prophet from Bethel. Word had reached him about the remarkable deeds of the young prophet, and he was eager to meet him. "Come with me to my house and eat," the old prophet offered warmly. The younger prophet shook his head, remembering his charge. "I cannot. God has commanded me to neither eat nor drink here, nor return by the same road I came." But the old man's face grew serious as he leaned closer. "I, too, am a prophet, and an angel of the Lord came to me with a message. God says it's okay for you to come and eat with me at my house." The younger prophet hesitated, caught in a battle between the old prophet's convincing words and the command of God. Perhaps God had changed his mind, or perhaps this man truly did have a word from the Lord. After all, he was a prophet too, someone who claimed to hear from God. Against his better judgment, the younger prophet nodded, deciding to follow the old man back to his home. The table was set with bread, fruit, and a jug of fresh water. The younger prophet sat, feeling conflicted, but rationalizing that everything must be fine. He had delivered the message, and this fellow prophet had assured him that the rules had changed. Surely it was a small thing, a meal in the company of a godly man. Yet as he ate, a shadow passed over the room. The old prophet's eyes clouded, and he spoke again, but this time his words cut through the air with divine authority. "Because you have disobeyed the command of the Lord and returned to eat in this place, your body will not be buried in the tomb of your ancestors. You will die today." The room fell silent. The younger prophet's heart dropped, and dread washed over him. He had been deceived, not by an enemy, but by someone who spoke in the name of the Lord. How had he fallen into this? His disobedience, even in the face of friendly deception, had sealed his fate. He left the old man's house in haste, his mind a whirlwind of regret. But it was too late. As he traveled back along the road, a lion suddenly leaped from the thickets. The attack was swift and merciless. The prophet's body lay lifeless on the road, with the lion standing guard beside it, along with the donkey he had been riding. The sight was strange and eerie. The lion had not devoured the body, nor had it harmed the donkey. It stood, as if sent by divine order, to make an example of disobedience. News of the prophet's death spread quickly. When the old prophet heard of it, his heart was heavy with sorrow. He knew the young man had been sincere, yet God's judgment had been executed without delay. The old prophet retrieved the body, burying it in his own tomb, mourning the death of a man whose only fault was a moment of confusion, a single act of disobedience. But why? Why would God allow such a tragic end for a man who had, up until that point, been faithful? Why would he permit the young prophet to be misled by another supposed servant of God? The answer lies in the nature of divine justice and obedience. This story, found in 1 Kings 13, is not just a sad tale, but a warning for all who follow God. The younger prophet had been given clear instructions from God himself, and though deceived by another prophet, he bore the responsibility of holding fast to what he knew to be true. God's commands were not negotiable, not even by those who appeared to speak with divine authority. This tragic event reminds us that obedience to God requires vigilance, even in the face of conflicting voices that claim divine endorsement. The prophet's death served as a symbol to the people of Israel, a people who were constantly led astray by false teachings and counterfeit religious practices. His death by a lion was not just a punishment, but a message. God's words are not to be taken lightly, and his instructions are final. In the end, the lion standing over the prophet's body became a silent testament to God's unwavering justice. It was a visual sermon to a wayward nation, showing that the consequences of disobedience, even in its subtlest forms, are real and immediate. The prophet had been faithful in delivering God's message to the king, but he failed in his personal obedience. The story warns us of the dangers of trusting in human words, even those from a fellow believer, when they contradict what God has already spoken. Thus, the sad story of the prophet killed by a lion is not just about a single tragic moment, but about the serious nature of obedience to God. It reminds us to stay true to his voice above all others, and to be wary of deception, no matter how pious it appears. In the end, the prophet's life and death serve as both a warning and a lesson. God's instructions are clear, and they are to be followed, regardless of what anyone else might say. The consequences of disregarding them, as we see, can be dire.